Well, hello. Hello, everybody. So good to see you. This week is going by, as they say, lickety split. It is going by so very fast. Well, before today gets away, I better do something for you real quick. We are still talking about that wonderful word, that calming word, the word peace. Peace. Even just hearing the word calms you down just a little bit. Well, I am going to sing a hymn for you today, and this hymn actually triggered a lot of things for me as I was singing through it, and as I was doing some research about the hymn. It triggered a lot of things. And I'm amazed at some of the things that came back to me as I was preparing for today. And so many things came back to me about my past spiritual journey as I was working on this song. And when I started thinking about my spiritual journey, the peace that I gained back then came back to me. Well, let me give you the scripture. I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. Our scripture today comes from John chapter 14, and it's verse 27. And it's real simple. It simply says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." God says, I leave my peace with you. I entrust my peace with you, and my peace I give to you. Have you received God's peace? Have you accepted into your heart God's peace? Oh, how we need that today when all around us in this world is raging, and we need the peace of God. Well, the hymn I was referring to is entitled "Wonderful Peace." The song was written in 1889, and it was written, the words were written by a minister, and the music was written by a minister. But the funny thing about it is the words and the music were all written in the same state. Yeah, in the same state. It is amazing how God is able to do that. Well, the first minister, the minister who wrote the words, his name is Warren Cornell. And he was a pastor for many years in the state of Wisconsin. He was a pastor of, it's called the Methodist Episcopal Church there in Berlin, Wisconsin. You ever heard of that? I bet you some of you have. Some of you might be in Berlin right now, Berlin, Wisconsin. And Pastor Warren Cornell actually wrote the words. And the thing that triggered a lot of things for me is the location as to where he wrote the words. He wrote the words at a summer Christian camp. It's like a Bible camp. He wrote that at a Christian Bible camp. Have you ever been to one of those? A camp meeting, they called it. A Christian summer camp meeting there in Wisconsin. Well, in 1889, Warren Cornell actually was the guest speaker at a summer conference, a summer Bible conference at this camp meeting. And he was invited by a Methodist Episcopal church there in a place called West Bend, Wisconsin. They were holding that camp meeting in a special location, like on a farm, and they had built like a camp meeting ground there on a farm there. Well, it was a 5-day conference, and on the last day, they started on Wednesday and they ended on Sunday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 5 days. And Pastor Cornell was the guest speaker, and on that Sunday, he decided to take a walk. He was so filled with joy and excitement because when you're in a Bible conference, many of you know this, in a Bible conference, you overdose on scripture reading, you overdose on prayer, you overdose on singing and worship. You just take it all in. You overdose also on eating. That is a major part of a Bible conference. And you just overdose on the things of the Lord for 5 strong days. So he was filled on that Sunday, right before his last sermon, right before he had to speak, he decided to take a walk. And the story simply says, as he was walking, he was so filled with joy and so filled with peace. That's when he wrote the words down he found some paper. On one side, there was some kind of advertisement. So he just scribbled the words down. And the words began to go as this: far away in the depths of my spirit tonight rolls a melody sweeter than psalms. And of course, many of you know the chorus. It says, peace, peace, wonderful peace, coming down from the Father above. Well, many great things begin to happen when you go to a Bible conference. I've gone to many Bible conferences. Well, he wrote the verses down as he was filled and excited with all that had happened throughout those 5 days. He wrote those words down and put the paper in his pocket and proceeded to go back to the conference ground so that he might share with the people his final sermon for that conference. After the conference was all over, the pastor of the Methodist Episcopal Church from West Bend, who sponsored it, the pastor found that same piece of paper. Evidently, it must have fallen out of his pocket or fallen out of his Bible that Pastor Cornell had written. And Pastor Cooper, William Cooper, found that paper as he was cleaning up. Now, Pastor Cooper was also an organist, so he began to read those words, and the story goes that he went to the organ and he began to play a melody that would go along with the words that were on that piece of paper. Isn't that amazing? You got 2 ministers in the same location, and the Spirit of God was moving. Well, I know many of you probably have been at a Bible conference. I have done music at so many Bible conferences. It is unreal. And there are some great Bible conferences still going on today. And at those Bible conferences, we actually had great times of meeting with the Lord and making strong decisions. And it wasn't a time where we gathered and we battled it out over things. No, it was a time of spending time with God. And the music, there was no controversy about music. No controversy. We would sing whatever they presented to us, and we would meet with the Lord through that worship. I spent many summers at these places. One is called America's Keswick in New Jersey, a beautiful, beautiful campus. And I was their guest soloist for many summers. And that's where my children would grow up. They would grow up in that Bible conference. And then there's a place called Otisega Bible Conference. Oh my goodness, the food at Otisega was unbelievable. But we met in like a little barn, no air conditioning during the summer, and we would actually have to prop the windows open with sticks. Actually, they didn't have windows. The flaps came down, and when we had our meeting, we would take the flaps and push the flaps up, put a stick there and then hold it up so that when we sang and worshiped, you could hear it all over the place. That Otis Seger was in a place called Machias, New York. Spent many summers there. And then there was another place called Harvey Cedars Bible Conference where I did a lot of men's conferences. I was a music director for the men's conferences there at Harvey Cedars there in New Jersey. I think it's way up there in New Jersey. And my son often talks about the time that he and I went, and he often talks about going back to that place, he calls it. So I said, what place is he talking about? And he was talking about Harvey Cedars, where he could run free and there was water nearby, and we had the best time together. And then there was a place called, in New Hampshire, called Romney Bible Conference, a place in there where we'd have great camp meetings, and it was the tabernacle. We would meet in the tabernacle and have outstanding times of meeting with the Lord, overdosing on scripture, overdosing on worship, having the Lord give us strong directions for our lives as we were growing up, give us to set our hearts and minds on what he wanted us to do. And I think that's how he nailed down my future. And then there was a 20-year span of time. Every summer for 20 years, I spent in a place I spent 20 years in a place called Keuka College. Now that Keuka College is still there. It's still there. But we used the Keuka College as a retreat site where people would gather from all around, all over the country, and we would have a Christian conference there where we would have special times of called Church in Action. Bible study by famous Bible teachers would come in and teach us. We would have afternoon times of prayer where we would meet in small groups for prayer. And then, of course, food was at every conference, a lot of food. And then at night, we would spend each night at this conference in Keuka College, we would spend it in silence. We call it the Benedictine silence. And we would be in silent and praying through the night. And the silence was not broken until after we had breakfast and get ready for the first session. Oh, this song took me back as I studied and I heard about the camp meeting. My mind flooded to all of these different places. Have you been to a camp meeting? They're still having those. They're calling them Bible conferences and retreat sites now, but they are there. And these are places that we need to go and take our children and take our grandchildren so that they can be knitted together in the things of the Lord. Well, let me sing this great hymn for you today. I'm only going to sing 2 verses for you, but I am just stirred up right now as I remember those wonderful feelings that I had. The wonderful feelings that I had as I was on these campgrounds, as I was hearing all of the great teaching, all of the great preaching, and singing at the top of our lungs, and all of our writing down of all the plans that we had for the future, the desires that we had, what we wanted to do for the Lord in the future. All of those things. I believe God heard all of my prayers and that God is still answering all of those prayers. Oh my goodness. Let me sing for you today. I'll sing 2 verses of this wonderful hymn called Wonderful, Wonderful Peace. away in the depths of my spirit tonight rose a melody sweeter than song. In celestial-like strains, it's unceasingly fair, o'er my soul like an infinite calm. Peace, peace, wonderful peace, coming down from the Father above. Sweep over my spirit forever, I pray, in fathomless billows of love. What a treasure I have in this wonderful peace, buried deep in the heart of my soul, so secure that no power can mine it away, while the years of eternity roll. Come on, sing it with me. Peace, peace, wonderful peace, coming down from the Father above. Sweep over my spirit forever, we pray, in fathomless billows of love. In fathomless billows of love. In fathomless billows of I challenge you today to go back in your mind and go back to some of those things where you nailed down some things with the Lord. And go back and find those times of peace. That's what happened to me. I went back to my earlier years and found great times of peace. Those things that brought me super peace. And that has made all the difference for me today. May God bless you. May He keep you strong and healthy. May He allow you to experience the peace of the past, the peace of the present, and give you a glimpse of the peace He has for you in the future. I look forward to seeing you again. You know when that will be. Tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody. See you later.